Good evening and welcome to another MTV Community Forum, wherever you are. I am Byron Campbell, host, and our co-host, Chris Diali. Good evening, Chris.
Good evening, Byron, and it's a pleasure to be here, viewers and listeners on your various platforms. I am a little stuffy this evening, so if you hear me coughing, it's because Byron interfered me, so just keep it, try not to be so.
He'll keep his distance, I guarantee. But we have an interesting evening, Chris. We have an interesting guest that we'll talk about later. But let's start with the Ministry of Finance, Chris, put out a report, a recent report, and they're always months late. So this is the first quarter of 2025, and they gave some data on what the national debts were. It's $2.7 billion. But what's interesting, it represents about 68% of our gross domestic product, which is acceptable. Nothing wrong with that. But and we have to understand that all countries go into debt to finance its development, and the safety of debt, I know, depends on several factors like your interest rates, your growth potential, and most important, Chris, the purpose of the debt. What is it for? Is it, that's important. But what was most interesting, Chris, about the report is that we learned that I noted that China is our biggest bilateral creditor. What's the significance here, Chris?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, we have the U.S. now who no longer gives us any aid of any sort. Even loans is difficult. And I think the country has to pivot in order to have its developmental programs to continue. And if China is a willing participant to offer bilateral terms on loans or aid in whatever form, why not? And if their interest rates are normally between 1 and 2% or 3%, you go for it. So I think that is part of the law to go to China for financing in particular forms. I mean, the Chinese have done a lot here for agriculture in particular, in the various forms that they have introduced and different types of species and different fruits and so on. And then most recently they did the expansion of the airport and did some work on the runway and the ramp and the gates and what is happening there. That I'm told is a loan financing.
Chris, they're financing a lot of things, our stadium, even the maintenance
Yes.
of the stadium by the Chinese. But that's a policy of the Chinese government, and this has implications, geopolitical, because China is so very present around the world, certainly not Latin America and the Caribbean. We've seen that. The U.S. may not be comfortable with this,
Well, they're not. And you see, the issue is here, the U.S. will come with the military might and enforce policy on you, or weaponize different things that they have, as they're weaponizing the visas and all of that.
And we'll talk about that later too,
for the refugee and whatever.
Yeah.
But China comes differently. All of them trying to achieve the same thing. They're colonializing you in different forms.
Yeah.
In China, in Africa, you hear a lot of things about their finance ports. They can't pay and they start owning the port.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful as well when you're taking the debt to understand your ability to repay and so forth. So that is the new norm now, because they want to control the world just as the U.S. want to control the world.
So Chris, I heard, I saw preliminary information on this report. Finally, we have an agricultural census report. It's key findings from between 2012 and 2023. Because remember, so during these years up to the present time, in fact, for the past period, we were planning without any data. We were guessing. We didn't know what was happening. So finally, this report is out, and I don't have the report, but I've been able to pull some interesting numbers from it, some interesting data from it. So let's carefully listen what we're finding out. That first of all, we have a 33% reduction in farms. A third of the farms no longer exist. Big deal. Doesn't stop there.
This includes livestock as well as...
No, these are farms. These are lands. These are farms. Right, the number of farms available. They're down by
food and vegetables and so on.
Exactly, down by a third. Then 1/5 of our agricultural lands is no longer available for agriculture.
20%.
20%. In fact, it's a little over 20%, 21.76%. Significant. And most farms over 20 acres are now abandoned. That's what the report's abandoned. So it's telling you what's happening. And 1/3 of all the farms available are under half an acre. So it's to tell you. So, but the question is, which raises there, and we could talk about it maybe another program, but in the absence of a land use policy, you see what happens. So no land use policy, the government could say, we need a hospital, we'll take 90 acres of prime agricultural land. There's no policy guiding it. So everybody, all developers can just do what they want. It doesn't stop there, Chris. The other thing is the aging farmer population. The majority of farmers is between the age of 50 and 69. So that tells you, and the other thing is even the female farmers, 1/3 of farmers are female, but among the female farmers, they're aging the most. So are we targeting the youth? Are we targeting the women? Are we dealing with succession planning? And it doesn't stop there, but 59%, almost 60% of farmers are part-time.
Yeah, well, Byron, that report only highlights what we know.
Yeah.
In other words, agriculture has not been a prime purpose of this government or the government before in terms of their approach. And the approach here is a strategic one.
Yes.
So land use policy is a strategic approach.
Yeah.
And we talk a lot about food security, but if you hear those figures, we ain't serious about nothing about food security.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And the aging farmer and the fact that we didn't have labor, remember the biggest constraint now we have in agriculture is labor.
And I didn't see that part in the report yet, but clearly that's a big part of it.
So if you can't get people to work the land will stay idle, and then all those estates you talk about.
But some of the good parts of the report, Chris, what we learn is the farmers' education level is rising, particularly those 45 and under. We have greater use of machinery, on organic manure being applied. So there's some good things, but livestock is a problem. That's been plummeting. The only good part there is the poultry. We're seeing good increase in productivity there in the poultry subsector of the livestock section. But and the question of the ruminants, Chris, and maybe we could talk about it now. The ruminants that were imported, several millions were spent a year ago, that they are not yet being distributed. Potential farmers are now asked to reapply. And there's some casualties. We don't know the real rate of the casualties. The PS of Agriculture was on recently talking about that it's 5% or whatever, but it's an issue. It's taking a year.
Well, again, is the planning. And we have a good example of a lack of planning with the fish issue.
Yeah.
Because up to now,
Yeah.
January has concluded,
Yeah.
and we're still on the ban.
Yeah.
But the fish government said they submitted the stuff, and we're hearing
Yeah.
dead silence from the government on what has
Yeah.
happened since
Yeah.
they submitted
Yeah.
the data.
Yeah.
And that is causing real concern as well. So I raise that as an idea of how we plan for agriculture. We don't plan appropriately, strategically or otherwise. So it is no mystery that what you're saying in the reports, and no surprise that is the figures that's coming out of agriculture. So agriculture as a sector, you could say dying, or in a critical phase, if you want to put it in terms of health, you're in critical survival.
Yeah. Because often, where's the extension? Where's the pest and disease support? Where is farm roads, farm access roads? Chris, I can tell you from personal experience, it doesn't exist. But anyway, Chris, we have to move on. Chris, what's making the news big is the whole question of third country detainees. Deportees. But they are detainees, deportees. Chris, and what we're gathering here is that our government is preparing to sign an MOU. And I'm making this statement based on the comments from both the Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister. Yeah. But here's the thing, Chris. What we're seeing, and there's a term for it called, Chris, it's called transactional diplomacy, where political pressure or where financial compensation is offered by the significant stronger nation, in this case the United States, to compel weaker nations like ours and others in the Caribbean to accept these deportees. So it's a forced transfer. We are compelled and we are under threats. It's like a dumping grounds for migrants that don't fit into someone else's system. And we hear our Prime Minister saying, well, and our Foreign Minister, and what's insulting to me, they refer to them as transferees, and hosting them. It's not transferees, and we're not hosting anybody. They are being deported into third countries. And that's the reality of it, Chris.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, other OECS territories have already signed this MOU, so they have definitely figured out how to divide us by getting individual countries to come on. I listened to Dr. Gilchrist and Dr. Fletcher there, they saying that, this could be positive in that we need people to come into the country to help with the labor shortage. And at the same time, we could see how we could do this and accept people. Now, we don't know, the thing about this, you don't know the numbers, how many deportees they're going to ask us to accept. Then you need to understand the profile of the people, that is another thing, and the culture of the people that's coming in.
Yeah.
And I think the foreign minister alluded to that as well, that they would not be taking anybody that they don't figure meets what they think is the requirement to fit in here.
But why are we taking them? The question should be, why are we accepting, because in the United States, Chris, and that point is important, there's resistance, there's a movement in the United States because this is tied into ICE operations where human rights are an issue, international law is at stake here, and many countries like Minneapolis and other states are resisting and are fighting this and seeing it as illegal. By accepting those persons, we have been part of this.
Well, the issue
we are facilitating the United States brutal policy on migrants.
Byron, we have negotiating power, we don't have. We don't have. Right?
And you know why we don't have, Chris? And that's a big point. And I am to understand that one of the big ones being put before us now, of course, we know about the visas, we know about our fishing, we know about downgrading our travel advisory. But one of the big ones that is coming is corresponding banking relationship.
Yeah.
And this facilitates our trade, our remittances, and foreign investment.
Yeah.
So this they're holding over us. If you don't accept them, then prepared for the worst.
Yeah.
So it's a bully, we are coerced into this, and this is what the government must tell us. Must tell us the truth. Don't try to form it as though these make it nice. It's not nice.
When you have a situation like that, you have to try and see what is the best you could get. And this is Dr. Fletcher's point, that try and see from this dark cloud how there could be some kind of silver lining that the country could benefit from this and how it's done. So that is positive thinking from that point of view. Okay, if you understand what you just said about how the U.S. is weaponizing the various things that they're doing for us.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, as a nation state, you have to find out where in that whole ambit of things this could redound to something positive for us. So it is not the best thing, but it's something that is going to happen in a certain form.
Take it for what it's worth, but there's nothing positive about it, as far as I'm concerned.
It can be. If you screen the amount of people coming in.
These people don't want to be here, first of all. That's the first thing we have to understand.
Well, we don't know.
They don't want to be here. That's not where they want to be. They want to be with their families. They want to be in the United States. They've been sent here. They've been deported here against their will. That's how they're coming here. So what frame of mind are these people in to work and to have a normal life here? That's the question.
The Rwanda model.
Yeah.
The U.S. had used the same strategy for Rwanda and sent third country people back to Rwanda.
Yeah.
And they paid huge amount of money to settle them in.
Yeah.
And this was one of the points that they were making, that they could use the Rwanda model for who are coming back. Yeah. But in our small country, we have a situation where we have pressure on housing, pressure on the health system, and don't talk about the social consequences. So, and that's why I say the numbers are important. If the U.S. is saying we need to take 10,000 refugees or 5,000, we don't know how we're doing that, where we putting them and where we housing them and what's going to happen. So there's a lot of unknowns in this that we need to have a lot more discussion on.
And the question of communication, and we'll talk about that later on with our guests when they come. Chris, we have had and there's a lot more we could talk about this, but clearly this is happening and we need to be so careful. Chris, we've had a little bit of politics now. We've had a new caretaker in place now, Dr. Joseph, Adrian Joseph, for the St. George Northwest constituency. That's where I live, Chris. Northwest. There was a big, last Thursday, quite interesting. What we've seen is one of the issues coming up there and being discussed in social media and on the news is that Dr. Joseph is still an employee, still works with the government, still part of the public service, and therefore, what does the standing order say? And this discussion is going along. But the other point too, Chris, is that What we've seen is Dr. Mitchell exiting. We've seen him move from political leader, leader of the House, but he still remains the political representatives for not a political the parliamentary representative for the St. George Northwest constituency.
Yeah, he has tendered his information that he no longer is going to be involved in active politics.
But you're the parliamentary representative.
No, let me finish. And he is he's an elected representative in the parliament.
Yes.
No, he has not resigned his position from parliament, which will allow them to have a by-election if he does that. So he has not done that.
Right.
They have appointed a caretaker, and under the public service rules, once you decide to go into active politics, the expectation as a public servant is that you tender your resignation.
Yes.
So I suspect that is coming with Mr. Joseph, Dr.
Yeah.
Joseph.
Yeah.
So some things to play and happen as they go along. Dr. Mitchell's role now would not be one way he's going on the pulpit or whatever to talk politically of what is happening or not happening in the country and his constituency. So he's now handing that over to Mr. Joseph. When Mr. Joseph gets appointed, because he's still caretaker, he's not the candidate for the proposed candidate for the constituency. So when that happens, then the dynamics will change. And what Dr. Mitchell has alluded to is that he wants to stay in the background and advise on the way forward politically for NNP and the country.
I don't know,
as an
Chris.
elder statesman.
It's like he's exiting but not departing. You know,
No,
there's exit but no departure.
Well, he has not said he's departing. He has made it very clear that he will be there advising the party. But he's still the chairman of the party.
Yeah.
So he has a role.
Okay, so he says he hasn't exited. He's still very much vibrant and active in the
side of the thing. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine, Claire. What's else, Chris? What did you got to talk about?
Well, the electoral office is one, and what the possible implications are there. We've seen heightened activity in the electoral office. I think they have a retreat coming up for all the officers and their roles and so on, and getting them prepared. We know election is constitutionally due in 2027. You're hearing rumors on the ground that it may happen this year, early or late. We're not sure. Of course, that is within the remit of the Prime Minister, but it all speaks to fueling the fact that it may happen this year, and what is going to be the effects of that on the incumbent and those that plan to come in. Remember, we have a interesting environment with three parties now contending, NNP, NDC, and DPM. So there is going to be some interesting changes or how strategies those
what's
parties.
interesting to Chris is that the PRO for the NDC was on a few nights ago saying that the NDC as a party is now, what's the word he used, what's the term he used, re-announcing or their candidates. In other words, so we're going to have two announcements this week of who their candidates are. So interesting.
Yes, so you're seeing the political activities ramping up.
Yeah.
So there may be some fact in we may have an early election.
Yeah.
And the Prime Minister in his cabinet, post-cabinet meeting this week, announced a number of road projects, four major road projects
Chris,
that is planning to happen from April.
Yeah.
And what is going to happen with that? And because we have said on previous programs that this government has failed in terms of transformative projects so far. We haven't seen anything, whether structurally or otherwise, infrastructure or otherwise. So these are things that you will have to gauge as to how they're going to be happening.
But Chris, from that press conference you talk about where the Prime Minister announced it, what was the interesting parts about the modus operandi, how they're going about this project? What's different in this instance?
Well, the Prime Minister said these four major roads that they're planning to do is going to be a design, build, and finance by the contractor.
Yeah.
So whoever contractor that they appoint to do these roads is going to, that is the model they're using. So the government don't have to find money up front. The government is going to pay in the background. So once they approve the contract and I suppose the designs and so on and the ability to do it. What is interesting is that we have a company that is now moving fast ahead in Grenada to set up an asphalt plant, apart from the one that exists now. So it's going to be interesting to see how much of these projects that company gets. And
True.
they're proceeding, is it Woodford?
Yes.
With the development
yes,
of that,
yes,
regardless of
yes,
all the
yes,
resistance they had
yes,
environmentally
yes,
and
yes,
otherwise
yes.
to the asphalt
Yeah.
plant, they didn't have
Yeah.
an EIA completed. The last
Yeah.
thing that the PPA Planning Authority announced
Yeah.
that they gave them the permission to continue
Yeah.
on the hope that an EIA will be
Will be
presented.
done. Let me congratulate the government on one thing, that the Prime Minister announced that we have obtained a pothole patcher truck. So that tells me we're not going to go to Blackstage Butch again to apply bitumen. So that's a big move, Chris.
Well,
that
came from Barbados.
This is transformational, Chris.
No,
Be honest, Chris.
Barbados just bought 3 or 4
But
of them.
for us, it's transformational, Chris. Come on.
So I suspect he's off the tailcoats of that. Because if the Bajans get this, first time I heard about the patching machine, and it was not announced by
Chris,
Barbados.
admit, man. I mean, like, this is
No, I'm not saying
transformational.
it's not a good thing. I don't see it as transformational.
From Blackstage Bush to an automated truck
We
patching
may
hole.
still use the Blackstage Bush in some areas. So let's see, because our terrain is quite different
But
to
we
Barbados.
need that. But you see, as we repair those roads, Chris, what's causing the pothole are the heavy trucks on the road. The roads are, even
Well,
though you
no,
patch it,
well,
they're not
yes.
designed for 20 tons.
That's general road structure, but the real issue is water in the road that has caused the holes.
Yeah,
Because the drains are not
Yeah,
properly
probably,
maintained.
so the water settles.
There's a
Chris-
dual thing.
Chris, that's all the time we have. We have to move on. Viewers, when we are back, we have a very interesting guest for you. Let me tell you who our guest coming up is. We have Afia Joseph. She's a project program manager and a value chain development specialist, one of our young professionals. So stay with us. We'll see you shortly.
Holy Natural Spring Water is a water for every occasion. On the field of sports, at your workplace, just open the bottle and savor the pure, refreshing taste. Holy Natural Spring Water is produced in Mama Can St. Andrews and is available in all sizes nationwide. To order, telephone 444-7654 or 533-7654. Holy Natural Spring Water, Grenada's purest bottled water.
At Maitland's Motor Sales and Rentals, we sell engines for all makes of vehicles. Toyota GT Corolla 6-speed, Toyota MR2 and Evolution 3. We've got transmissions for Toyota Noah, 2.0 Suzuki Escudo, Toyota Corolla. Windscreens for Grand Vitara, 2 and 4-door Escudo, Toyota Corolla front and back, and Suzuki Escudo wheel covers. Also available are motor oil, oil filters, crystal headlights for Toyota Corolla, brakes for all makes of vehicles. We sell C16 and Q16 racing fuel. Special prices on oils and accessories for customers who purchase vehicles from us. You're never left undone because we source the part if we don't have it. Maitland's Motor Sales and Rentals, empowering people through mobility.
Good evening and welcome again. As I said earlier on, our special guest this evening is Afia Joseph. But I want to make a slight comment, an introduction here. I want to say that tonight's conversation is not about personalities, it's about direction. Grenada is building, we are borrowing, we're expanding, we are branding ourselves as open for business, yet at the same time many citizens feel unheard, uncertain, and increasingly disconnected from decision making. Roads remains concerned, cost remains high, farmers struggle to access markets, but increasingly we are disconnected from decision making. My guest tonight is not an opposition politician. Rather, I should say our guest tonight is not an opposition politician. She's a trained professional, a value chain expert, a former MIB manager, and a young Grenadian woman who has publicly said that talked about the crisis our country is facing, not just about economics, but of confidence and of communication. So tonight, we ask difficult questions, not to score points, I want to say, but to seek clarity, not to inflame, but to understand. And so we welcome Afia, Ms. Joseph, tonight.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Welcome, Afia. You know, Banis, my host gave you a rather interesting introduction. Anyway, looking at your various writings in recent times and so on, one of the areas you highlighted that you figured that we were weak generally, not only politically or otherwise, but is the communication and how they communicate to the populace on various issues. And we spoke about some of them tonight. And I know you have a passion for agriculture because I see you know reaping a lot of things in your calabash and so on and so forth, and looking really lovely with what you get. So tell us what is spurring you on to vent or to say to the populace, listen, there is more than one side to things and we must pay attention.
I think, well, thank you for recognizing that. And if you look at most of those posts that I would have done and the amount of shares or agreement, you would see that there is a group of people who believe that we need more upfront communication, whether it's positive news or whether the administration is not sure. And that is very telling, right? If you look at the shares and so forth. So I'm not the only one that feels this way. I've had persons in the background also saying, we agree, we cannot say anything. Mm-hmm. And it's unfortunate because I would say Grenada has invested quite a lot in our intellectual capacity over the years. A lot of scholarships, a lot of educational opportunities, and we have built a sort of caliber of professionals that could add to some of the conversations that we have. And so we're at a time where we, as professionals, as young people, we have a voice and we have input and we want information. We are very happy to see many of the projects that are ongoing, but that should not overshadow critical communication that needs to take place with the Grenadian people on pertinent matters that affect us.
The government
as
and
well.
administration may counter and say, you know, we have done a lot of town halls. They have a thing they put in the papers every week about what they're doing, where they're going, and so on. But that still doesn't seem to get people to come out and vent. Because you hear rumors about, and I say rumors, that in these meetings they're dominated by their own supporters, and if you come there that appear not to be a supporter, mm-hmm. you wouldn't have an easy time. So, I mean, the question here is, do we stop questioning? Do we stop looking critically at what is being presented to us or not?
Well, there are places that...
Especially among your age group.
That professionals and young people just wouldn't find ourselves.
Yeah.
A town hall meeting would probably be a 0. I mean, it just doesn't even fit into the popularity category for us. We particularly would need digital communication. The issue on the deportee issue, that need wide consultation. At the end of the day, the administration will make the best decision for the country, and we believe that they will. But just even having a forum for feedback to consider all angles of the situation is important, irrespective of what the decisions are. So those sort of spaces are needed. I'm really happy that the Prime Minister started his DM with the PM, and that was well received. I watched that last night. I really enjoyed it. But in the space of leadership and dealing with the difficulty of leadership, as we all know, we've never managed a country, but we know what the challenges of leadership could be, and we possibly sometimes could tend to focus in that area. But we have to also make sure that we're not leaving behind people that need critical information in real time.
Well, the Prime Minister has been criticized and his government for dismantling the social partners group as a mechanism of communicating with the government and various NGOs and so on. And of course, his communication has been sparse after post-cabinet briefings. There's had one this week, obviously, but it has not been as probably people expect. And I want to stick with you on one issue here. That is the issue of the deportees, because one of the things to me that troubles me with the deportees coming in is social integration. They are going to be going into communities and living with our Grenadians who have our own social mix, and depending on where they come from and who they are is how we're going to integrate them and what it is we're going to be doing structurally to integrate them with us. We are known as a people of great warmth, touristically and otherwise. How are they going to affect that or not? And these are things you're not hearing being discussed with the intention of signing an MOU.
Actually, the administration probably need the inclusion of Grenadians. We don't want to be hostile to people who have been deported here. We have people that have been in horrendous situations that are being deported, like those who are under asylum. And there are very, very trying circumstances for those persons. So a lot of dialogue, a lot of sensitivity. We need to understand how we integrate those people into our communities, and so much more, their mental health state.
Right.
So if we receive this information after and then we're trying to figure out how we're going to deal with it,
Well,
or people deal with it in a very negative way.
That they will be
it could
expecting
have
a
a bad
dossier
fallout.
on everyone, and they'll be looking carefully at that dossier to see if they fit what it is we expect from a Grenadian perspective.
Yeah.
But dossier is one thing. How you function after is another thing. And you see, that mental health issue is a critical issue that we need to pay attention to, because these deportees may come here under various issues of pressure and stress, and we don't know how that would have affected them going forward and so on. But I want to move on to something else, and I know it's a passion of yours.
Before you move on, I just want to say, don't forget us in the dialogue. Don't consider us after.
Yeah.
Consider us in the process, because we are the beneficiaries of the solution or the problem.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Either which way. Agriculture, I know, is a passion of yours. You've heard a little chat about agriculture and the statistics. From where, and I know you used to be the general manager at Marketing Board, but not on Marketing Board, generally, how do you believe, this government before is paying attention to food security through agriculture?
I thought about this, I think about this quite a lot, and I want to extend that beyond the government. When we look at food security, we want to ask, how serious are our people about food security? We import 70% of our food. This issue is government related, but also broader than the government. Do we even want local food and healthy foods? I can tell you that because a lot of the items from the produce stores get thrown away because people simply do not buy them. So I believe that the issue with agriculture is broader than just government policies and implementation. It is our position and mindset as it relates to eating our own food. If there is a demand, there will be a supply. So that on that end, it should be looked at. If we, and to me, I feel like we say things, but we don't really mean it. We say we want to eat healthy, but we do not eat healthy. We eat ultra-processed foods and highly processed foods. We say that we want to reduce the import bill, but we don't actively, in our homes, in our communities, really do that. And we know that because we end up with the same outcome every year on the budget, right? So as a people,
It's a transformation
are we
in the mind
serious?
that
Yes,
we
it's a
have to have.
transformation of the mind. Are we really serious about addressing this issue? We love to say that the administration, whether it's the one past or present, is not doing X, Y, and Z in agriculture, but what are we doing on an individual level to address that issue? This is the big issue.
This is a
If
good
there's a
point.
massive demand for our agricultural produce and the change in lifestyle of how we eat, overnight, the import bill issue would be addressed, and maybe government would be motivated to continue to invest in agriculture. Have you ever thought about it that way? The other thing that I saw, well, from the budget speech for 2026, I see a lot of things mentioned about an injection for agriculture. It's very vague. A lot of that does not have any numbers, anything that you can evaluate in terms of success or failures, KPIs, which is what we know in a professional space. And the other things I looked at was the agricultural plans. All of the agricultural plans are vague. There's no agricultural system.
You know,
So we have an agricultural sector, but we don't have an agricultural system. We have a wish list on paper. We have a wish list from consultancy reports, and there is no, we say what we want, we don't say how we're going to get there. And so when we talk about agro-processing and building agro-processing and all of this, I
want to interrupt you here and zoom you in on cocoa.
I laugh because we aren't serious.
Yeah, cocoa is a good example, I think.
Yeah.
Here we have a product world-renowned for its quality. We have chocolate producers in the country, but we're seeing now that cocoa is in jeopardy from two aspects. Farmers are not producing as they used to in terms of cocoa, and the production and the facilities we set up in Diamond and now in Mount Horn is, the Diamond one seems to be in trouble and now Mount Horn is one. So we're not seeing, as you see, what is it critically we're going to focus on for that particular product. And that has been with us all these donkey years. We have our
and it's
association.
sad because if we have our factories down, we have factories in the private sector, people like myself who has been in manufacturing for over 15 years, who can keep factories working. You need to utilize the resources you have in the private sector. The private sector has the success stories and integrate that with the areas that have insufficiencies. Fortunately, I am doing some work with both cocoa and nutmeg regarding the geographical indicators project, which is moving along very well for Grenada. But there is a lot of potential in those two spaces. And they also are on
Tell
the
the public
threat.
what geographical indicators mean. Simply.
Essentially, we are recognizing Grenada in a global way through registered IP, right? In terms of persons, let me just say it in layman terms, that our cocoa and nutmeg and products associated with that from Grenada as single origin products that could be recognized anywhere in the world as having been made or produced in Grenada. It's a big step in the marketing for cocoa and nutmeg and hopefully chocolates in the future. We have a great deal of artisan chocolates here. And what we will do is add a layer of protection for those two commodities. Right now, if you go online, you can see a number of brands demonstrating that their products are made in Grenada. A number of chocolate bars from God knows where, saying that they're made in Grenada, and we cannot prove it, nor can we take any action against them. So there may be companies adulterating products so that they can use the Grenada brand and making money. And addressing geographical indicators, having that protection would allow us as a country to secure brand Grenada in the future.
In Trinidad does a lot of chocolate as well. And I don't think their beans is as good as ours.
As ours, we have the best.
And we have some of the best cocoa. And our cocoa is in some of the most international chocolate bars, but we are not getting the mileage for it.
So we have plenty of work to do in agriculture.
We have plenty of work to do in agriculture.
I hope the talent that you have as a specialist in value chain and particular interest in agro-processing, because there's real opportunities there for Grenada. So I hope your talents will be able to influence that path. But I want to look at the broad development issues to see. We see a lot of projects happening, hotels, cranes, and different things happening, whether it's in Carriacou. But To what extent are these developments culturally grounded and environmentally sustainable? Who's coordinating this vision? Are we drifting simple projects by projects? If we stay on this path, what kind of Grenada do we honestly see in the next 10 years? What are your thoughts on that? What are you observing? What's concerns you have here?
Irrespective of administration, as a young person growing up in Grenada, I felt that I had no idea what good looks like in Grenada. What do we want as a people for Grenada? In 20 years, what should Grenada look like? Should we look like a digital economy? Should we look like a mostly blue economy? Where are the men working? Where are the women working? What are families like? What is that evolution of Grenada? I lack an understanding of what exactly that is.
They may point you to the 2035 plan.
Yeah.
I saw the 2035 plan, and then I saw the 2075 mention
Vision
about the
75,
Vision
yeah.
75. But again, Vision 75, who curated that, and where was the detailed involvement of the people? You
Population,
cannot make a plan for people that they didn't
Well, 2025, I
create
know
by
had a lot of
themselves. So,
consultation.
right.
I'm not sure about Vision
But then
75.
besides the plan, if it does not have a system tracking how it's happening, it is just a wish list, right? And so how do we know that projects that we are undertaking is in alignment with the end goal? Because that sort of thing. And we know that because strategic planning is very, very important, and not just listing out what the plan is in a beautiful, sentimental way, but the steps, the order, and all of the players involved in doing
So it's
the
not
plan.
just the communication, as you say, it has to do also with the consultation.
Yeah. So the plan is a good place, a good place to start, but it can't be the thing that's driving decision making. Yes.
I want to shift a bit to, labor, or the whole question of gender, male, female, and work situation. Women are outperforming men in education and employment. We know that females make up over 60% of tertiary graduates in the Caribbean, and male youth employment remains consistently high. So what is failing young men? And also, when we hear leaders say young people don't want work, what's missing from that statement? But tell me, are we failing young male? What is happening? What's your sense of what's taking place there?
I think when I look at men in society, there's a few things at play, right? The empowerment of women, I feel, like myself, I feel as though that has disenfranchised the relevance of men in society, and it should not have been that way, right? Women somehow need to be empowered by not disempowering men, and we continue to create a society that disempowers men, displaces men, and then we and then we ask, well, why are men displaced, right? So this is one angle of it. How do we build both genders in a way that everybody has value in society, right? I lecture as well, so I deal with a lot of adults and young people, and sometimes I meet young people and I'm so excited about whatever is going on in my life, and they will say to me, what's there to be excited about? We have young people that are hopeless in our society. There are dreams that are unfulfilled, and potential that is untapped, and how do we find space for that? We have to recognize that this modern world that we live in is a bit more sophisticated. We cannot expect, all the young people just going to want to work in a corporation that pays them $1,500 that they cannot survive on, and they'll be happy with that. That time of what I call plantation mindset has already passed, right? In addition to the movement of, the opportunities to make money on the internet. So you have all these moving factors going on. So the issue is not so much people don't want work, but they want people are constantly moving into spaces where they want to be doing what they want to be doing.
So help us to identify. So the male disengagement is it primarily
Challenge
from
of
families,
young
from schools, from the state, or all? And the question is, how do we?
I honestly believe a big part of that is the absence of fathers, absence of male role models. Like everywhere around us as females, we can see female role models. And it's not to say that you all haven't done a great job. Like I have a 17-year-old son, and I have asked, where is that place that he can, 17.
17?
Yeah,
Chris?
17-year-old son.
Okay.
And I asked, where can he go to get go to a group to get some sort of mentoring, and you can't really find that. So where are men getting their motivation
Now, where is
from?
women
with
getting their
men?
mentoring?
From other women?
Yeah, but you see where- that's the
we have
point.
work
From
to do,
other
yeah.
women. So the absence of fathers in society,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Who is teaching a lot of men how to be men? What are they really learning? Very few men are raised by fathers.
Yeah. Single mothers.
Single
primarily.
mothers,
Yeah.
primarily.
Who is both man
So
and
that's
woman.
a big part of the challenge as well.
You see what?
So the issue, when we talk about our men in society
Yeah.
don't want work,
Yeah.
we need to stop having that shallow conversation
Yeah.
and start to look at what is really going on in the background and start to speak to them probably so that we can actually find solutions.
Well,
We are
my-
in a space where we are surrounded by water. Why aren't more of our men working in the blue economy?
Yeah, I want to challenge on the men thing because I have a view that our work ethic has changed significantly in the male population versus the females. So our females will probably into construction, bricklayers, plumbers, whatever, and they're happy to be in that space. And our men are retreating in terms of qualification, and they're disciplined in terms of reporting to work and working. It's an ethic problem here. So you'll bring on a guy in construction, he works for a fortnight, he gets paid, and then you don't see him again. And then one of the things he say, boy, that man trying to slave drive me down there. I had to reach to work for 8 o'clock, and I had to be working until 12 and I had lunch. They're into this mode of, you work, you must stop and eat, and you must stop and chat on the phone. So there's a difference. I'm not saying that they don't exist with women to some degree, but you're seeing that more so with the males. And I have not heard how the males have gotten there. I hear you think about the father thing, and I believe that is part of the discussion, of course, because our men, historically, my parents and your parents and so on, used to work hard in the garden and still go and do construction or something else, but they always had dual roles to take care of their family and their household and working significant hours.
Maybe
I mean,
absence of purpose
well,
Yeah.
there's a-
and duty and those things, but it's worth looking into because this is going to continue to be a serious problem. And
Yeah,
I would say a lot
women's
of
success-
independent women, women are
women's
tired.
success would not be as successful, to say it in other words, if they leave the men behind.
Yeah, no,
Because
absolutely
we
not.
were accused of that in the 50s and the 60s.
Yes.
We left our women behind and had them relegated to menial jobs as housewives and so on. They broke that mold, and now they're into the independent role through education and other things. If we leave our men behind, as is happening, it wouldn't help with the success rate. It wasn't successful when we did it for our women. So why would it
Absolutely.
be successful? It won't,
Yeah.
because all of us have a role. You
So
know,
it's
and-
something worth looking into
Yeah,
with
yeah.
the men.
I feel one of the things you've commented before, what we've seen, and here I'm going with our infrastructure, utilities. GrenLink was sold on the promise of better service and lower costs. Has either materialized for consumers, but do you think that the state negotiated from a position of strength or desperation? And what does it say about how Grenada manages its strategic national assets? What's your general take on this? How do you view how we are in fact managing those assets?
Generally, I'm of the opinion that based on the state of most statutory bodies, that government simply does not have the tools to run many businesses, and I hold that opinion strongly, subject to being incorrect.
Yeah.
And you can see it by the track record of most of these operations. Just even being able to pay for expert level management is a challenge. And so that needs looking into as well. The sale of Grenlec, I was quite disappointed. Although persons believe that needed to come back under government ownership, but we have come so far with a reliable service and so forth. But hopefully that works out. But we were promised lower rates. And we are looking forward to some sort of truce on those issues, because the rates have increased, even though there were statements that they weren't. Where your usage is down, your bill is up, and all of that stuff. So we hope for the best there. But
I wanted to really look on that and go a little deeper, in the sense that, these statutory bodies, apart from being ill-equipped with the kind of human resource that they need, but it has to start from the boards and who are appointed to the boards, because our boards generally are responsible for 60-70% of the time being spent on strategy and not operational issues. And if you look at our statutory organizations, you don't see that, based on the quality of the people that are there, first of all, and the time they spend. So, I serve on many of these boards, and when you come and you talk about the strat plan and what the strat plan is and how we're going to, that must be a board item every board meeting. Where we are with the strat plan, where we going with the strat plan, is it working or not working, how we need to change it, and so on. But you don't see that in a number of these statutory organizations. I know this last government spoke a lot about the quality of the people. They asked them to submit resumes and do board accreditation and so on, but I'm not sure if we get in it. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, I don't know.
I think we
and
need
of course,
to...
we ain't paying them properly either. You can't answer.
Yes, that's right.
I export to come and sit for $150 in a board meeting.
I know.
It's just ridiculous.
I'm actually on one of those boards, and that company is doing very well. I'm the government appointee for Spice Isle Fish House. But I think that we need to look at the people on our boards and make sure that they are performing. And we need mechanisms to do so, because government administration has quite a lot going on. And there need to be a system to manage and monitor performance.
So
People need to bring results.
Who protects consumers when privatization disappoints?
Right.
Well, we have a consumer organization.
Yeah, but I just want to make one point before I move on, to say that these comments we have in from AFIA are not, let me put it this way, opposition talking points. These are professional concerns, and I think it's important that our viewers see this. I want to, if government officials were watching right now, what uncomfortable truth do they need to hear as far as our whole development spectrum is concerned?
Well, let's just make a little joke that Granans Road project was a travesty. It was challenging, but when we look at the drought we had over almost 2 years ago, we could understand why this needed to be done, and we can't encounter such a drought again. I felt that could have been implemented differently, especially with the Cliff Road project also undergoing, but it seemed to be coming to the tail end of things, and hopefully we learn from that experience.
And this question is a little personal, so you could reflect on it. Do you see yourself remaining as a commentator or stepping more directly into leadership?
I like leadership, but I like to work in the background. I really don't like attention, I like to bring results. I like my work speaking for me.
Okay.
But I see a space where the Caribbean needs to really look at and have real conversations. Even debates are good. Disagreements are good, because that means that we're starting to think and become aware of things that we weren't paying attention to. Because in the Caribbean, I feel that we need to create real models that are ours. After slavery and colonialism and all of that, we basically adopted systems that belong to other countries, and their systems aren't even working for them. models of how to operate our economy, et cetera, our governance models, et cetera. And to me, a lot of what we do and how we do it are very dated. And we have to be bold enough to say that the Caribbean needs its own way. We're going to take the good of what we've been using and we're going to evolve into much better systems
And I want
for
to press you on
ourselves.
something. When you said about the light bulb went off in my head, you know, debates. This is something that we do in schools, Grand Lake debates, and those are fantastic debates with the young people, and when you see how they prepare and get done. But you know, when we reach up to the leadership point of view and the political leadership in particular, we don't want to debate at all.
You know, right?
And that is so sad.
Well, we need debates because we have
Because-
a very
yeah.
intellectual group
Yeah,
of
you-
people who are not coming
Yeah.
in no rally and riding on no bus and wearing no t-shirt. We want to discuss the
so
issues.
my thing is, we do a disservice to our population. If a politician or a young person decides they want to get into politics, which is lovely, young people have an interest in development and contributing to the development of the country. But nobody wants to have a debate to say, I want to question Afia, why are you here? You are saying A, B, C, D, how you plan to achieve it when your opponent on the other side? And that kind of
Yeah.
questions, if you're talking health, we have a lot of health issues and health issues. What is your plan? How you know it will work versus the other? We don't entertain that.
And it's healthy.
Yes, and I think
Yeah.
not only health is tragic, that our people don't get an opportunity to hear different perspectives. So why should I vote for you? Because you're green, you're yellow, you're blue, or you're pink? I don't want to vote for you because of that. I want to vote for you because I think you could bring something to the table that could move my country forward.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I
Absolutely.
think your group of young people, that is the discourse, isn't
Well,
it?
we don't have time for all of this carnival. We want to hear what's going on with our country.
So I have a follow-up question on this. As you talk about young people and their engagement in politics, we've seen a number of young persons into politics with this present government. In fact, they call themselves a youthful party, but we've seen even the opposition party and the movement, a certain amount of young persons have now formally endorsed. What do you think about the caliber and the contribution they can make? And let me just clarify one of the things. What we've seen happening, as I think it happened in Carriacou and other places where we've seen this, that we've had young people coming on board with no experience. Is experience necessary? But what overall is your sense of the quality, the competencies you see emerging in young persons playing a more deeper role in politics,
Okay.
frontline politics?
So I would say in terms of this administration, a lot of persons were questioning their experience and readiness for it. And given that quite a lot of this administration did not have experience, because, I mean, Dr. Mitchell was in that role for
Yeah.
on 20 years,
Yeah.
I think they've done a pretty good job, to be honest.
Okay.
For somebody without experience coming in this space and managing these challenging times, we have to be honest enough to say it could have been a lot worse,
Okay.
right? However, I think that experience is necessary. I'm actually thinking that people should really be trained to manage countries and to understand politics and to deal with international relations. Things like that, if you make a mistake, it could be very costly. So we ideally should prepare people
Yeah.
for that
It's
space.
interesting that the
Yeah.
Prime Minister made a statement earlier this month, sometime recently, that had he known, he would have spent
Yeah.
more time studying
Yeah.
The public service.
public
Yeah,
service
we have to
and
have a
civics.
level of compassion.
Exactly,
You know, for
so
for
there'd be
that,
some
that
preparation
reality.
for
Yeah,
it.
there
Yes?
should be. But if somebody is bold enough to dive in and learn quickly
On the job.
on the job,
Job.
we have to admire
Kudos to
that
them. I mean,
resilience.
and that brings us to this point of succession planning. We are poor in this country when it comes
Yeah.
to succession, whether it's public service, whether it's
Everywhere.
sports, whether it's private sector. We poor in succession planning. And that is something, again, if you want to use the buzzword, we need to transform how we do succession planning.
And we're running out of time, Afia, so I want to ask you, you have some closing comments?
I'm just grateful to be here. I love to keep things balanced. My interest is always about Grenada and our progress with Grenada. I do want to speak about the public library.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, please.
Right? The state of the
Yes.
public
Yes,
library.
yes,
I had
yes,
showed
yes.
my son that library, the
Go
building
ahead.
the other
Yeah,
day, and I
please,
said,
yeah.
darling, this is our public library. And it was quite a disgrace. But I believe that we shouldn't have to wait on government to solve that problem. I'm a bit disappointed that the private sector hasn't taken up this
It's an
important
interesting-
space for our children. And having books and a place where they can go to learn and
So let me
be
challenge
healthy.
you there as a
And,
private sector person.
Yeah.
You know, in my company, they used to issue diaries every year to their managers. We cut it out immediately when everybody
What's
had
that?
cell phones, diaries, to keep track of what you're doing. We cut it out because of the cell phone thing, because everybody's expected to diarize on their phone and follow everything on their phone. A public library with books, to me, wouldn't attract young people. It has to be a combination of digitization
Absolutely.
with books, because I could go on YouTube and get anything that any library could have, international.
Yes.
So I don't think the attraction.
But it's an assembly point also where
Right.
people
So
physically meet.
It has to be not what we knew what a library was when you and I used to go and look for an encyclopedia to get information.
But I still want to see my books.
Right. Well, yes, because you're from that. You're from,
From that era?
socialization.
Okay.
You will read better in this plane than in this plane.
Yeah.
Because our young people, your son reads here, and he will have difficulty reading here and assimilating at the same rate. So I hear the public library a thing, but I think nobody has come to us and say how this new public library.
That's my opinion. Eh?
Yes, of course, yes,
Yeah, but
yes.
how this new, and I'm talking generally here
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
because the private sector have been, when I was there, many times asked to contribute about this and that, but they have not come to me and say, or to any of us, as far as I'm aware, that, you know, this is going to be the change. It's and to facilitate and getting young people, when they congregate, is not to all talk and laugh,
But-
but to discuss an issue that they have seen
Exactly.
in Google or internet and challenge it.
Yeah. Reading is still
Yeah.
very important.
Correct, correct.
Articulation
Yes,
skills
true.
is still very important, obtained through
Yeah.
books and wide knowledge. Best.
I mean, I had to teach
Provided
them how to
it-
Let me give you an analogy. You talk about young people that now interested in all digital, yeah? But you know, young people now are moving back into vinyl records. They know and digital exists, of course, but they find an interest in vinyl records. Anyway, that's your closing comments.
Yes, I think so.
Chris,
We'd love
you-
to see the public
thank
library
you.
back
Chris,
there.
you have the final say.
Yeah, well, Afia, I think is refreshing to see a young person like yourself doing what you're doing and still keeping your passions in agriculture and other things, which I think that is so important for us. But it's refreshing to have it, not because you're a woman or a man, it's just that you have an interest in your country and where your country can develop and along a certain path. And I think a young person like yourself continues to challenge, and I hope that you never stop. Because that is important. We need to challenge the status quo and to
Always.
understand that, you know, there are different perspectives out there. And let's
Absolutely.
embrace them.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Look, and I want to repeat this, Chris, that these are what Afia has mentioned here today are professional concerns. And from listening, that gives me hope for the future, Chris, I could tell you in a simple way. So I want to thank you for coming. And viewers, that's all the time we have. On behalf of Chris and I, our technical staff, MTV, we'll see you next week, same time, same place. Good evening. Bye-bye.